the Papuan people cannot live without their environment, without their forest, without their sea. If the sea, the forest destroy here, they cannot live because they very depend on this natural resource.
Welcome to the Mongabay Newscast. I'm your host, Mike DiGirolamo, bringing you weekly conversations with experts, authors, scientists, and activists working on the front lines of conservation, shining a light on some of the most pressing issues facing our planet and holding people in power to account. This podcast is edited on Gadigal land. Today on the newscast, I'm going to take you to the most biodiverse marine region in the world, Raja Ampat. This equatorial archipelago is located on the far northwestern tip of the island of New Guinea, also known as the crown jewel of the Bird's Head Peninsula upon which it sits. I was privileged enough to travel there this past January and document my experience, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Along my journey, I was accompanied by several of my colleagues and documentary filmmakers. I spoke with both local community members and outsiders who have lived and worked to protect the region for decades. While known for its high marine biodiversity and containing a thriving manta ray population, Raja Ampat boasts stunning karst limestone formations towering up from the water, creating steep, densely forested terrain containing scores of endemic species and also many birds of paradise. Speaking personally, it is unlike anything I've ever seen. It is a wholly unique intersection of marine and terrestrial beauty. In recent decades, Raja Ampat has benefited from the creation of a network of marine protected areas that some refer to as a conservation success story, though it does retain nuanced challenges in regard to the protection of marine species from poaching. It is also a very rural area that is quite far away from critical human infrastructure. The rate of poverty in the Papua region is amongst the highest in Indonesia. However, an ecotourism boom and other conservation income initiatives are providing employment and job training opportunities for local communities. I got to visit and stay at a traditional homestay run by a local family. I also paid a visit but did not stay at a more exclusive resort with a conservation philosophy. I wanted to know more about the challenges Raja Ampat faces and also its successes. While I wish I could show you all the amazing wildlife I got to see, for the purposes of this podcast, I'm going to focus on the conversations. Though you will get to hear my journey in the pitch black morning hours of Wahyu Island to see two birds of paradise in the middle of the forest. I sat down to interview the first guest you're about to hear at a homestay on Dayan Island, Wahyu Mul. He's a documentary filmmaker with experience working with the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and Econusa, filming the birds of paradise for their Defending Paradise campaign. If you listen to our Mongabay Explore series on New Guinea, then you have heard these birds. Wahyu spoke with me about the recent recovery of the ecotourism industry and the benefits it is bringing to Raja Ampat, and some of the challenges that still remain. So Wahyu, welcome to the Mongabay Newscast. I feel a little strange saying that, because we're sitting here in the middle of Raja Ampat. So it's definitely the first time I've recorded a podcast in the middle of the field. So you're a special first guest. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Mike, to inviting me here in this podcast, and we are welcoming you in Raja Ampat. Here now in Dayan Island, in the north of Batanta Island, the bigger island here in Raja Ampat.
And why are we here? And specifically, why are we here at this homestay?
Okay. Right now, we are in the cruise that we go around in Raja Ampat Island. Raja Ampat Island, we have 4 big islands here. Is in Wahyu, Batanta, Misol, and Salawati. We will traveling around Batanta Island and Wahyu. But now we are here in Dayan Island. The objective is I want to show you from Mongabay and from our colleague that we meet with the local people here who running homestay for their living, and they protect their environment here. It's in Dayan Island. Here is a constant family, constant running his homestay to protect also coral reef that lie down in surrounding his island here in Dayan Island.
And so does Constant own the island here, own all the land around here?
Yeah, Constant and his family, not only Constant, but Constant and his big family who's own this island. Yep.
And there's another homestay right across the strait from where we are. Who owns that one?
That one is owned by Hans family.
Hans family.
Yeah, Hans family who running the Batanta adventure here in Dayan Eco Homestay. Yeah, and that's why we very grateful, because these local people, they see how ecotourism can be their livelihood.
First, I want to ask you about the struggle of getting this started, because especially COVID-19 hit, and then there were no tourists here for a while. So when did the turnaround start happening for Constant?
Yeah, actually this homestay, the government give the local people aid to build this homestay like this, the traditional house of Papua, in 2019. But after that, we have pandemic COVID-19, and the guests that they dream will welcome here is not welcome because the pandemic. So me and with some colleague in 2022 try to bringing guests here. We talk to our colleague in Jakarta and surrounding that we must visit Raja Ampat, but not going to the exclusive resort. We live with the local people here. We eat and we talking with the local people and study how they protect their environment here, how they protect their land here, and how they can live with the ecotourism here.
So some locals have embraced ecotourism, but some have still clung to or sought other forms of income. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, some local people here who they realize that they cannot live without the healthy environment, the healthy ecosystem. They change that right now they becoming like a local hero to protecting their land. But some people they still have like for us it's like just short term thinking about how to get the money by collecting the species or maybe the plant that protected by government. But I think it is our homework to spread out knowledge to them that if we want to live long, if we want to make a legacy for our children, our grandchildren, we must protect it. We must protect this island. We must protect the environmental. We must protect the sea. We must protect the forest also, because the Papuan people cannot live without their environment, without their forest, without their sea. If the sea, the forest destroy here, they cannot live because they very depend on this natural resource. So that's why we focusing on to teach them, to acknowledge them about how the importance of the natural resource for their life.
So we're actually going to be traveling to some other islands and seeing some other things. And you don't need to spill the beans on everything we're going to do, but what are some of the things that you think are the most exciting that we have planned?
Okay, in this area, we saw the people who protect their sea, but when we will be go to Saporkeng village, also in Raja Ampat, in Wahyu Island, we will see another ecotourism. Is bird watching, bird watcher come, bird watcher from all around the world come to Raja Ampat just to see two endemic species bird of paradise here. It's red bird of paradise and Wilson bird of paradise. We will see. I hope we can see those two birds.
I first reported on the birds of paradise 2 years ago. I spoke with Edwin Scholes at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, who described them as a natural wonder of the world. At the time, I was shocked and mystified that birds this colorful and brilliant existed. So the prospect of getting to catch a glimpse of them in person was huge. I was really looking forward to it. But it would have to wait, as our journey to Waigayo would take us a couple more days. Meanwhile, we made a stop to the island of Kri, where a man named Max Ammer, who first came to Raja Ampat over 30 years ago, is running an impressive ecotourism resort of his own. Outside the resort, we walked along the crystal clear water on a beautifully constructed boardwalk made of ironwood. You could see sharks swimming below. Ammer says he chose this location in 2003 because it was originally a plantation. The architecture is notably modeled after the building style of the local communities, but it's reinforced for structural integrity and longevity.
We noticed that there were almost no traditional buildings anymore in the Raja Ampat. Everyone was changing to stone walls or boards, or they had corrugated iron, of course, like everywhere in the world. But it's bloody hot, it is ugly. But there were 1 or 2 houses in some villages that were traditional. So I said, man, can you still build them? And would you be willing to build them for us? So then we got the local people, and now we modernized it. Like we had problems with termites, so we made our own fake wooden beams. Mm-hmm. So this is concrete now, but it still looks, and the style and the roof, it's still, a lot of the culture is in it.
The resort is more exclusive, running an average visitor around 4,000 euros for a week-long stay. This is roughly 4,500 USD, but it has a relatively modest capacity. Ammer told me he's never serving more than 14 guests at a time. Annually, he books roughly 70% of his capacity. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Ammer's operation houses the Raja Ampat Research Conservation Center. It supports scientists, researchers, and sometimes media with lodging and logistical support for their work. It also employs many members of the local community, providing them with job training in a variety of skills. It even has a dental clinic, which they say has provided treatment to dozens of patients on the island. There is also a zebra shark hatchery with full-time staff dedicated to the nursing of baby zebra sharks, which eventually will be reintroduced into the wild. I got to see it myself. A woman named Mary spoke to me about the opportunities the facility offers to local communities.
I've been working here since September 2022. And as far as I know, for the opportunity, we are helping people and we try to find, we open for job opportunities for them to work in here, to protect, the marine species in here, to become an aquarist. That's the first one. And then the other thing, we also buy food, we have live foods that come from the local people. So if you see on our source over there, we ask people to find for us things like snails, things like clams, and also lobster, prawn, squids, and other things like that. So we're helping on their economy also. Mm-hmm. And this hatchery is actually built from the local people. So they're the one who build up the walls, build up the roofs. Everything in here is from the local people knowledge.
I got a chance to speak with Ammer more in his office, joined by my colleague Hans Nicholas Young. On our way into the room, he pointed to a weathered drone covered in a layer of dead moss sitting on a cabinet, and he told me he found it while hiking through the forest. and guessed that it may have been laying there for a couple of years or more. For some reason, the imagery stuck with me. Can you tell our audience where are we sitting right now?
Okay, we're sitting in the Raja Ampat Conservation Center. So a number of years ago, we decided to make an entity so you're legal to do things in conservation. And that we did within the RARCC, Raja Ampat Research and Conservation Center.
So can you give our audience a bit of background on how long you've been working in Raja Ampat? You said you've been here for 33 years. What brought you here, and what kind of work did you start doing here?
That's a long story, but I happen to be very blessed with parents that love nature. So from a young age, I grew up in Nigeria. I'm a Dutch-German mix with Indonesian too. But my father worked in the oil industry. Nigeria is a big oil producing country, but it also has a lot of forest and animals. My parents were very passionate about animals, and they saw they would sell the baby animals on the side of the street. So Nigerian people eat what they call bush meat. They kill the adult animal, and sometimes there's a baby one, and then they try to sell it for some money. And my parents cared for those animals, and they tried to keep them alive, and they would release them to the wild again. So as a little boy, I learned that from my parents, how they take care of animals, try to release them back to the wild. So I got a great passion for animals, but different than my parents, I want to protect the actual habitat. I think it's more successful to protect the habitat than to try to protect the animal. If there's a habitat, the animal will be there. So when I came here for another reason, for aircraft wrecks, as I told you, I'm interested in the history of the Second World War. I fell in love with the people and the land, and I thought I could use my time maybe to work with them, to help the people to create maybe a better existence, a higher quality of life, but at the same time also work on conservation. I thought, why not? I was at the time not married, I was a single, so can do whatever I want with my life. And I thought it was a more useful way of spending my life. So I choose for that, just because of passion for nature. So I did make a dive resort, but it was not specific for the diving. It was, what can I do to make money? I want to make my own money. And then with my own money, I can work on conservation. But also what I do, doing the resort, working with Papuan people, is already working on conservation, and try to, as a diver, you try to protect the reef. So from the beginning we were conservation minded, but later we put it into an organization. So we have a name and a title, and we can, let's say, work with the government, because as an individual it's a little bit difficult, but as an entity it's more easy to communicate and get things going.
And how many resorts do you have now in this location?
We have 2 resorts, and both are tried to run in an environmental friendly way. A lot of people talk about zero. I find it a little bit funny. We do plant a lot of trees, so if you say how many trees do we plant, maybe you can say it's 0. But I think a resort per se cannot be in a way 0, because you have things that you're doing. But if your contribution is more positive than negative, you're already doing something positive, and that's what we try to do. So we try to balance it with working with the local people. We try to balance it with how do we build. It's environmentally friendly. We do it with what kind of boats do we use, what kind of engines do we use, and we still do things wrong. We make a lot of mistakes, of course, but we are always trying to see how can we improve what we do.
So you mentioned earlier that there's a number of unique conservation projects that you're working on that you wanted to talk about more. So yeah. I just want to give you an opportunity. What are some of those?
Okay, for instance, in the diving industry, and also in transport wise, in an area with a lot of islands, we need boats. I found out by experience that the catamaran boat design is about 65% more economic fuel-wise. So that's a big contribution you can give. And so we're building catamarans, and we're teaching other people also to build catamarans. I think a lot of mistakes people make is they look at what they're doing, but that's a little thing. We are looking what we can do over a wider area. So if we teach people to build boats, they will keep on doing it and keep on doing it, and they make a living. And at the same time, they help to have transportation that is 65% more fuel economic, which is a serious contribution towards being more environmentally friendly. So that's one of the projects, for instance, that we do. Another project we feel very happy about and proud about, especially our students, we were able to train, not myself, we work with other people. It's always working as a team, but it's never one person, it's always a team. But we have some friends, and together with them we have been able to train Papuan people to become aircraft pilots and aircraft mechanics. We are tremendously proud of the men. They come from villages that do not even have electricity. And they have to, like you and we ourselves, all of us here in this room, we, as a young child, you had electricity in your house, you learned how to work with the drill, you had a bicycle to learn how to pedal, then you maybe had a little motorcycle, and at a certain point you had a car. They don't have any of that, and they have to learn from a very simple setting to learn how to fly an aircraft. That's a big step. There are many steps, and they were able to do it. Mm-hmm. So we also do this, not only it's good for them to be able to help their own people, but we also do it because we see a lot of Papuan people kind of drop the towel in the ring and they give up. We say, no, don't give up, man, fight. You can get there. If you put your energy in and you have the right attitude, you could achieve something. Because a lot of people, they become like a victim. Oh, I'm a victim, I'm poor and I can't do anything. I said, no, man, you can do. And also I say to local people, you're actually very rich, you own the land. I'm here as a foreigner, I don't own anything. I rent a piece of land. You own the land, you're rich. If you're a landowner, you're actually rich. You know how expensive it is. Do you want to have a house? You want to buy a piece of land? It costs you a fortune. So the people are rich, but they're not aware of it. So
here I should note it's important to recognize that while some of the people Ammer has interacted with own their land, this is obviously not the same context as owning land in a more industrialized, wealthy nation, with all the opportunities and privileges that affords. But I understand the point Max is making here.
So I hope to make them understand they have the tools, they have the power, they have to just understand that, and they can, and they have the right also in this country to take care of their own area. If they're an adult leader, they have, the land is theirs, according to the Indonesian law also, but they just have to learn how to use the Indonesian law to benefit them.
Again, here's another important note. Raja Ampat land ownership is by customary law, not title deeds. This is an issue I alluded to at the beginning of this podcast. Raja Ampat homestays, like the one I stayed in, is one way in which local communities can obtain government support, keep their land, and make a living. Just as Wahyu explained earlier, and Max explains here, tourism developers coming in from the outside are one of the bigger threats to displacing local communities. What's the work that's unique that you're doing here at the Raja Ampat Research and Conservation Center?
Okay, in this center, the main thing we do is create opportunities for others to do research here. So we work with local and outside universities and research institutes and organizations like yourself that we exchange knowledge, we host you, you want to stay with us, we have a dormitory, it's not commercial, very low fee for staying. If people, for instance, students want to do some work that we feel is beneficial for the area, we often host them for free. They can stay with us for free because if we feel that they have a contribution, sometimes we feel a student is doing something for him or her, that's fine, but then we charge. But if we feel they're really making a contribution for the local community, then we say, okay, you can be for free because we feel this is helping the local people. So that is one of the things we're doing. We help other people to do their job, to do their work, to do their research.
Hans, do you have a question or two that you want to ask?
Actually, I want to ask more about the shark conservation program that we just visited. Can you tell me more about that, about the background, how that idea, how that project come into fruition, and is that part of the Raja Ampat Research Center?
Yes, it's part of the Raja Ampat Research and Conservation Center. But like I said, we work with a lot of other people. I think the initial idea came in the mind of Dr. Mark Urtman, who is currently working for Conservation International. So he is very well connected, and he realized that in aquaria there's a lot of they quite well reproduce, but in the wild these sharks are almost extinct. So he thought, okay, then maybe we can take the wild bred, the aquarium bred fish and put them in the sea. So that was the general idea. And he is also very well connected, and he got funding for this, and he got with the idea, and then he really made a whole network. If I'm not mistaken, there are 97 different entities part of this re-shark, this idea, and there's people sponsoring like a shark, and then they name it after a person, and that person pays for whatever the cost is to do it. So what we do to help them, we build a facility, we man the facility, we operate the facility, but the idea came from this entity that is called Re-Shark. You know, they have a newsletter, there's a lot of people involved. It's really an amazing thing, because as you probably know, the zoos have been trying not to get animals from the wild anymore. If there's wild animals into zoos, it's often people smuggle them and then they put them in the zoo, because what are they going to do with the animal? But in fact, they tried, in the old days, they would harvest too many animals from the wild, but now that's no longer considered sustainable. You shouldn't do that. So they already cleaned up their act, let's say. But the aquarium are a little bit behind. So we try to entice the aquarium also do their good deed, and in this way they can have a contribution like that. So that's why people are all on board. They all are happy because they get good criticism, and people like good criticism. And it's also it's a nice idea. You help the wild to restock, and then a beautiful animal will no longer be extinct, but will be it is a beautiful animal. So any animal we can stop to be extinct is, I think, at least one step in the right direction. I mean, you know how much work there is, but it's at least a good step in the right direction. And I was very surprised how popular they are. I mean, people love these sharks. Everyone is wild about it. We get reporters, people writing about it, documentary makers all the time. I had an interview yesterday with a French reporter, today with you, and on Friday there will be the Dutch television. That's just 1 week. It's like, I never thought about this. To me, Mark Ertman is a good friend of mine. He's an amazing guy. I think he's absolutely one of the top people in conservation. And we know each other for many years. So when he came with ideas that I'm super happy to help this. But but it's interesting.
It sounds like a huge undertaking.
It is.
Yeah.
Major. I mean, the networking is insane. There's so many people involved. It's unbelievable, but it's a good thing. Like what we did, for instance, say you asked what we did. We, for instance, invited the governor of West Papua to get an award for his involvement in conservation. It was so important to bring a person from Papua to the US and put him in a podium and give him credit for his work, because he deserved it. He and his team did a lot of different things. At this moment, you guys are very much into forest, 70% of the forest of West Papua is dedicated for conservation. They call it the crown jewel of Tanah Papua. But they don't get the credit for it. It's very difficult for a local government to make this happen. You know, there's so much. You have to meet with people. There's organizations. It's a total nightmare, and it's years of preparation. And to give them the credit for it, it's wonderful, and that helps them to keep motivated. If you tell a guy, "Good job," then oh man, let's keep on going. And if no one ever says that you do a good job, you're the kind of, you know, they're working their butt off and no one says, "Thank you, are good." So we found out that we got 9 of the government officials, our organization, Richard Snyder and our organization together, invited them to go to the US and be on the podium and get this. And it was wonderful. It was a really amazing thing. But also, we didn't do it only for that, but I mean, it gives us a good working, you know, we have a very easy, we can just walk into the office and say, "Hey, how are you doing and what can we do here?" And we have a very good relationship. That helps. Like with Charlie was very important in this. And we named one of the sharks after him. Of course, he was super happy to be here. He was supporting that. And Last time he was at the farm, the agroforestry, and he was willing to speak on the camera, and we made a promotional film about it, and we get all the support. But that's why it's so important. And you say, oh, thank you for your time. I'm happy to spare my time, because we can all help each other that way, because it's a hard job, and everyone that is doing something, that's something. And we should all support each other. And I've done it with Mark. I mean, when I started with conservation, I thought about myself, and I knew nothing many years ago. I thought, I need educational material with to train the kids. I already realized to train the kids is one of the best things. But how am I going to do that? What do I know about educational materials for conservation? I know nothing. So I write every organization I can find. I didn't know about you guys, and you didn't exist then, I think. But the only one replying me was Mark Erdman. He replied me. He got the educational material and he sent it to me. So I thought, this is not a guy that talks, this is a guy that does something. So ever since we have been friends, and he was, let's say, still a PhD student and not well known, and he have been growing, and we also, but we have always been supporting each other. We support each other, we're both working on the same thing. We tell everyone from each other, good guy, good guy, good guy, and many success come out of that. And that's how you can help each other, by this is a good guy, this is a good guy, and when I find someone, I connect him, and he knows someone for something, connect me, and we go do more and more and more because of that. Yeah.
I'm curious to hear, because you've been here for 33 years, and obviously a lot has happened in that time. And New Guinea, the island of New Guinea, and obviously the Indonesian half of West Papua, is in a unique position where it has 70 to 80% forest cover, and protected. And so the idea here is that now the island is in a place where it's going to develop critical human infrastructure. I'm curious to hear from you. Do you see that happening in a just and equitable way? And if not, what do you think needs to change?
Now, it is going to be very difficult. That is clear. The thing is, I believe that the Indonesian government, the true government, the president and his cabinet, have a good plan, I mean well, but you always have scrupulous business people that don't care and they just think about themselves. And that's why it's so important to work together to empower the Papuan people, but also educate them. The problem is, because it's a remote area, there are unfortunately a lot of lesser educated people, and that is a bit of a problem. There are very good people, but they by tradition not work together very well. So what the governor has been trying to do is let them work as a team. And I tell them, man, you cannot win if you don't work as a team. If you all are individual, you will all lose. But when you combine your knowledge and work as a team, so that is something that is needed. But there's a lot of things needed. So I believe that the general plans of the government are positive, that they try to do the right things. Unfortunately, it's a large area, you can under the radar do a lot of logging and all the kind of nasty stuff. And you guys are, of course, instrumental to make that known. So then some people will give a bad light, and then people don't want to be in the spotlight in a negative way, like the Raja Ampat. Because it's known, you can't do serious logging in the Raja Ampat. You're gonna damage the Raja Ampat, you'll be getting all over the news. So they take off, but now they take off and they do it somewhere else. Those guys don't stop. If they can't do it here, they go there.
Where do they go?
Somewhere that they're a little bit out of the spotlight.
Okay.
So the remote areas are the ones that will suffer most. So we try to work in the remote areas, and we try to just help the people to realize that they have the power to stop things. They don't like it, stop it. They can. The government in Indonesia has good rules for the local people, actually, especially for the Papuan people. The Papuan people are actually very powerful compared with other people in Indonesia, because they have the adat right is considered more powerful almost than the Indonesian law. So if they say no, no one can log. But if they say yes, they can. And a lot of times there's no other opportunity. When people have not much money, what are they going to do to survive? We sometimes we have to understand. I try to understand the people. Like, for instance, I work with fishermen, so we need fish for our resort, so I buy them from the local people. I could fish myself, but I don't want to do that. I want to buy it from the local people so they have extra income from this resort by selling fish to us. So I make a deal with the guys, no shark finning and no turtle poaching. I said, when you do that, I won't buy your fish. So one guy runs to me, said, oh, Max, he has a turtle in the boat. Oh, I'm going to the guy, what are you doing, man? We were making an agreement, no turtle in your boat. Come and sit and talk. So I get him here and I sit and talk. And then he tells me he has a daughter that would like to go to high school, he has no money. I have also a daughter. My daughter can go to university, I have the money, he has not. What am I going to say to such a father, you know? So I kind of make a deal that I bought this turtle and I release it again. But I mean, I don't want to buy also the turtle because then I'm supporting buying turtles. So it's sometimes very complicated, but we cannot be angry with people that have, you know, that's why I say come with a solution, not say what they shouldn't do, because the guy is poor and he wants his daughter. You have a daughter, your daughter is your diamond, is your pearl. You know, you want to take care of her and you can't bring her to school, you have no money. That's not a nice situation as a father, you know what I mean? So I have to try to understand. Then when he caught this turtle, he saw this opportunity to make some money and he could give it to his daughter. So I have to, you know, also realize that. So it's a little bit complicated. It's easy for us to say this is bad, but if you are poor, you know, what are you going to do? So that's why let's together look at solutions. What can they do that could make them a better living than now, which is also good for the environment? And those possibilities are there, but it's a lot of working together, not so easy.
Raja Ampat is increasingly people are becoming more aware of Raja Ampat as the years go by, and it's everything from the natural beauty, like the photographs are just amazing. And so the interest level is rising, I from my perspective. So what would you say to people who are interested in visiting Raja Ampat who've never been here before?
No, it is a very beautiful place to visit. I can understand that. Be careful how you travel. Try to, like we say in the diving industry, only leave bubbles, you know, not leave trash. When you bring your garbage, take it away with you. There's no way to recycle batteries and things like that, such things. And try to work with environmentally conscious companies. I do feel that a lot of them promote it and I see not so much action. So find someone that has also action, not just talking. They call themselves bio this and whatever, and I think, I don't see anything, man. I see nothing. Yeah, they say they do beach cleanup. Everyone clean up the beach. That's normal. That's not action. That's just standard. You sweep your floor, you clean your garden. That is normal. That is not. We can't call that action, but that's what they call action. I mean, that's silly. Everyone does that. But people that employ local people, train local people, you know, environmentally try to work with the right boats, try to build in a way that is environmentally friendly and has some other projects beside that. They run a dive resort or something like that. And don't think, and that's I think something some people are wrong about it, they think that by definition traditional people will do things better. No, if you give them a bulldozer, they will bulldoze the forest down too. Sometimes they don't do it because they don't have the means. If you have the tool, if a chainsaw, you cut a tree down. If you don't have a chainsaw, you need a wooden, or you have a stone axe. It takes a long time to cut the tree down. You can do it, but it takes forever. So by definition, it's not only, sometimes I hear that and it makes me feel a little bit bad because it's, oh, you're a foreigner, this and this. It doesn't mean that we do things worse. We're very trying to be environmentally conscious. And you can nowadays, through the internet, find out such things. So I think it makes sense to do some research and support organizations and even businesses and whatever that are serious with conservation, that try to do the right thing. And no one will do everything right, but at least make a serious effort. And that's the main thing, I would say.
Max, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Okay, thank you very much for coming over, and you're welcome.
Thank you. At long last, the day where I might get to see and hear not just one, but two birds of paradise arrived. And I awoke with much enthusiasm at 4 a.m. to prepare to head to Waigeo with the rest of the crew.
Good morning. 4 a.m. It's dark outside. We're gonna go see some birds.
Our journey started by taking a boat to the island, where we met up with a team of experienced local birdwatchers guided by Benny Mambrasar, a renowned birding veteran with 30 years of experience. Upon reaching the trailhead, which was several kilometers up a mountain, the anticipation grew as the sounds of the rainforest and the pitch-black morning hours enveloped us. The bird you're hearing in the background is the hooded butcherbird. Up another 15-minute hike, we came to a clearing with seats and netting that would obscure us from feathered onlookers. Benny fixed his telescope upwards at the canopy, and we sat and waited as the sun rose. And then finally, a red bird of paradise flew into our view. A male, identified by its red plumage and corkscrew tail feathers, was attempting to attract a mate.
Against the sky. Okay. The branch.
It was our hope that we could witness the famous courtship ritual where the bird fans its impressive feathers and literally struts back and forth on the branch to impress and gain the favor of a mate. Unfortunately, there would be no opportunity for that today. Benny took us back down the path, and we moved on to the second watch site, where we hoped to see Wilson's bird of paradise. Fun fact, its scientific name was given by Napoleon's nephew Charles. Incredibly, this bird was not filmed until 1996 by David Attenborough. The bird reminded me almost of an ornate piece of jewelry. It's black with a light blue crown and a tiny yellow mane, red wings, and two curly-Q feathers extending from its bottom that almost look like notes on a page. It was truly a sight to see. Our bird, also very interested in attracting a mate, cleaned leaves and small twigs off the ground and perched itself on a branch, waiting and calling.
Itu jantan. Kalau di dunia burung itu yang cantik yang jantannya. Oke. Wait. They will come back. Very active. I like it.
It felt surreal to sit in silence, simply listening to the call of these mythic birds that I came to know over 2 years ago and was certain I'd probably never see. The reality is, most people will never see these birds. But the fact that I could come to this island, stay in accommodations built by and run by local communities, and merely take an hour-long journey into the forest to see a bird that used to take ornithologists days or weeks to catch a glimpse of, gave me chills. Certainly, more people will want to see and experience this incredible terrestrial and marine biodiversity of Raja Ampat. Before we said our goodbyes, I got a chance to speak with our guide Benny with a little help from Wahyu. Benny is from the village of Sapokren, just down the road from where we stood.
So Benny, thank you for speaking with me today. So can you tell me, how long have you been studying the birds of paradise and what brought you to this kind of work?
I started 2015 for little birds, many birds, and also go to the forest for farm the red bird of paradise and Wilson bird of paradise. And then after that, I built the hide. I built the hide for the red bird of paradise, and I built the hide for the Wilson bird of paradise.
Mm-hmm. And have there been a lot of tourists that you've taken on journeys through the forest?
Yes, I have a lot of customer for bring to the forest for see the birds of paradise.
And do you employ any people here in the village?
Yes, I did.
And how many?
15 people.
Here, Wahyu helped me ask Benny if the increase in tourism translated into an increase in well-being and quality of life for his village.
Apakah ekoturisme di sini membuat menambah pekerjaan dan membuka peluang pekerjaan di sini dan menambah penghasilan masyarakat di sini?
Oh yes, our people in the village, they really they have a benefit also for the tourism, because they really understand about the sustainable of tourism. That's why now people in the village, they really protect the area, and also I work together with the people in the village, and then they realize about the tourism.
Wahyu told me through hunting or capturing birds of paradise, communities could earn 100,000 rupiah per bird, which is the equivalent of $6. But if the birds were left alone, a single tourist visit could earn them 400,000 rupiah, or roughly $25.
Before they didn't know the price of the bird by taking the tourists to watch, to see the birds mating, to see the beautiful feather that they have. They just hunting the bird and selling just only maybe 1,000 rupiah, 100,000 rupiah. But now, from the ecotourism, one tourist, they can pay more than 400,000 rupiah. Yeah, they now can live and embrace the ecotourism and as their main livelihood right now.
While ecotourism has benefited local communities like Benny's and many others we visited in Raja Ampat, many people are not happy about the region being split up into 5 provinces. Previously, just one province, Indonesian Papua, was split into Papua and West Papua in the early 2000s. Raja Ampat is in what used to be called West Papua, but is now somewhat counterintuitively referred to as Southwest Papua, even though it is in the northwest region of the island. There are a lot of layers to this story, but to summarize, the central government of Indonesia argues that splitting the region into 5 provinces will allow the country to expedite infrastructure development that would benefit local Papuans. However, local Papuans didn't get a say in this matter. Even though they technically have the rights to their land, they were not consulted on this issue. This led to protests in 2022. Mongabay's Hans Nicholas Young reported on it if you'd like more information. While much of Raja Ampat is a marine protected area, the rest of Papua faces threats from potential development or jeopardizing the conservation plans to protect 70% of its forest cover under the 2018 Manokwari Declaration. If you want more information on that, the first episode in the 3rd season of Mongabay Explores covers it. Suffice it to say, nothing is for certain, and plenty of reasons remain to be concerned about the long-term conservation of the largest expanse of intact forest in Southeast Asia. To that end, Wahyu had more to say about this, referring to the controversial and embattled Trans-Papuan Highway as coin with 2 sides.
So I just have one question left for you here, Wahyu, and that it has to do with everything you've been mentioning about the positive effects of ecotourism. Obviously, not everyone can rely on ecotourism. It's important, but there are some people that have to have alternative forms of livelihood. However, a scientist I interviewed for the Mongabay Explorers series on the whole island of New Guinea said the whole island, Papua New Guinea and Papua, are in a unique position because it is an island that is mostly still forested, 80% forested, and it has the advantage of being able to develop without destroying nature. And I just want to hear from your opinion. Do you see that happening? Do you see do you see Papua adopting and developing, critical human infrastructure without destroying all that land?
Yeah, I see so many change here in Papua, especially in the mainland. How right now the road building right now is spread out, and it's make a positive, I think, for the Papuan to get more education, because they're from remote area, can go to the city to take the higher education there, and also they can bring their natural resource and they can sell in the city. It's the positive impact, but that we must care and that we must be careful is how they're built without distracting the ecosystem, without distracting the forest area. And thank you to the government of Papua, West Papua, and now I forget they have 5 new province. So now Papua in Indonesian side have 5 province right now. Here we in Raja Ampat is
Southwest Papua. Right?
Yeah, Southwest Papua.
Yeah.
Southwest Papua province and West Papua province, and they have commitment to make the Monopoly Declaration that they must keep protect the 80% of their forest, not destroy the forest, but still the development still intact with the forest and like that.
And what would you say? Do you have an opinion on the Trans-Papuan Highway? Do you think that that's going to be helpful, or do you think that could possibly present a hindrance to achieving the goals of the Manokwari Declaration?
Yeah, I think it's like the Trans-Papuan road. It's like two side of coin, two side of money. Yeah, if we can, the Papuan people will have the advantage from that, but if the government not be careful with the development, it will be a negative impact, for the Papuan people. So the government must think and must uplifting the Papuan people who can join, and they can still have a positive impact from the development that government built here in Papua.
I want to acknowledge the communities of Dayan, Cape Cree, and Sapokrang. Special thanks to Edwin Scholes for helping to identify the hooded butcher bird heard in the audio of this podcast. If you want to read more on Raja Ampat, please see the related articles listed in the show notes of this podcast. Mongabay staff writers Boston Gokin and Hans Nicholas Young will have additional reporting in the coming weeks. As always, if you're enjoying the Mongabay Newscast or any of our podcast content, like our sister series Mongabay Explores, and you want to help us out, we encourage you to spread the word about the work we're doing by telling a friend. Word of mouth is still the best way to help expand our reach, but as always, you can support us by becoming a monthly sponsor via our Patreon page at patreon.com/Mongabay. Mongabay is a nonprofit news outlet. Even just $1 per month makes a difference and helps offset the production costs. So if you're a fan of our audio reports from Nature's Frontline, head to patreon.com/Mongabay to learn more and support the Mongabay Newscast and all of our podcast content. You and your friends can join the listeners who have downloaded the Mongabay Newscast well over 500,000 times by subscribing to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, or you can download our app for Apple and Android devices. Just search either app store for the Mongabay Newscast app to gain fingertip access to new shows and all of our previous episodes. You can also read our news and inspiration from Nature's Frontline at mongabay.com, or you can follow us on social media. Find Mongabay via our accounts on LinkedIn at Mongabay News, and on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Facebook, and TikTok, where our handle is at Mongabay, or on YouTube at Mongabay TV. Thanks as always for listening.